In this world of COVID-19 on customer behaviour, the impact of COVID-19 was sorry guys. The impact of COVID-19 on customer behaviour was immediate and widespread across all of these industries. Consumer behaviours have fundamentally changed over the past 1 year across all countries and demographics. In this panel discussion, we will learn how the state of business in 2021 is affected in terms of customers' expectations, behaviours, and also how technology plays a key role in transforming the overall customer experience. So our first guest is dialing in from Australia, Mr. Adam Geneave, Chief Customer Happiness Officer of AirAsia, has a wealth of experience in travel and the tourism industry. Having worked in a number of high-profile customer experience and airline production roles in Asia as well as Asia Pacific, Adam has been instrumental in managing to maintain high customer satisfaction throughout the COVID-19 pandemic, with new technologies, processes, and systems put in place to handle the significant surge in customer queries over the past year. Our next guest is Joan Yeo, Country Director for Love, Bonito, Malaysia. In her role, Joan has been delivering high triple-digit percentage revenue growth for the past 3 consecutive years. In her experience, she has managed over 30 brands in advertising and digital with a combined ADEX revenue spend of $50 million. She was also the country brand and marketing manager for Nike Malaysia, responsible for overseeing a $15 million spend per annum. Our third guest is the Chief Operating Officer of Ninja Van Malaysia. In Ninja Van, Zheng supervises the organization's ongoing operations and procedures. Prior to joining Ninja Van, Zheng was in the management, consulting, and telecommunications industry. And lastly, our panel moderator who heads KPMG's technology consulting practice in Malaysia, Mr. Alvin has over 24 years of experience providing strategy and technology consulting services. He works with businesses to help them design and deliver relevant customer experiences that drive engagement and result in sustainable customer relationships. This is definitely going to be a great panel session and it's not going to be missed. So the panel is now getting ready. All of you at home, please stay tuned. We'll be back shortly.
Thank you, Myra. Once again, a warm welcome to Adam, Joan, and Zheng. Digital transformation has been a key agenda for many organizations for the last couple of years. When we as society were hit by COVID-19, many turned to technology as it offered opportunities to rebuild business around the customer to create a truly connected and highly profitable enterprise. New combinations of talent and technology are delivering decisive advances in customer experience, operational efficiency, and competitive edge. Digital transformation has the power to drive positive outcomes, whether it's streamlining processes, harnessing data, or shaping entirely new ways of doing business. This is what we term as connected enterprise. To kick things off, if we could look back at 2020, wanted to understand from your organization's experience when the pandemic hit. Perhaps we can start with Adam, who has a very unique title being called the Chief Customer Happiness Officer. If you could please share with us your very interesting title and what it entails before you share with us your industry perspective. Adam, if we could hear from you. Thank you.
Sure. Hi. Thanks, Alvin, for the intro. Good afternoon, everyone. Great to be here with you today. Look, it is an interesting title, Alvin. It's a great, it's a great icebreaker for conferences and events like this. So, you know what I love? It puts the focus back on people. I think in customer experience, we often focus on systems and processes and things like that. But what I love about my title, it puts everything back focused on people, because at the end of the day, when we're talking about customer experience and our customers in general, we just want them to be happy, right? So I love my title, and it really keeps my team focused every day on keeping all our AirAsia customers happy.
That's great. I'm sure it's a very, very heavy responsibility, because I think, right, when I was growing up, I was always told that, your responsibility for your happiness, right? And you've got the entire world or the entire customer of AirAsia on your shoulders, yeah? So maybe, you could sort of dive into the industry perspective, right? What you saw this time last year. I think from a KPMG perspective, we saw different quadrants, different industries sort of being impacted by COVID-19, right? I guess one of the hardest hit would be on the airline sector, yeah? So maybe from your perspective, from a customer segment perspective, how did AirAsia sort of look at it? How do you sort of drive that new segment, or how do you drive that customer experience perspective? Adam, if you could share, please.
Yeah, well, it's a great responsibility, but it's also a great challenge. And I think we've seen an enormous challenge over the last sort of 12 to 13 months now, as you mentioned. And look at AirAsia, pre-COVID, our customer experience teams used to talk to about 50,000 customers a day, for example. And, during the COVID peak, we were speaking to over 500,000 customers a day as flights got cancelled and borders closed and people needed to, change flights or access refunds and credits, etc., with us as well. And, that had a huge difference for us. In 2019, for example, we spoke to 20 million people. In 2020, we spoke to over 50 million people. So we really quickly had to pivot the way that we were talking to our customers. And we did that through, increased automation and increased speed of response to our customers. And no doubt we'll get more into that later. But, one of the great things that we did during that pandemic peak is we reskilled our cabin crew and our pilots, for example. So people who, used to fly on the planes and who were grounded due to the pandemic, we were able to reskill close to 1,800 of those to be volunteers in our contact centre. So people who used to fly the planes were sitting behind chats and talking to our customers and assisting them to move flights or get access to credits and refunds, etc., or able to answer their questions. And I think the ability to do that was due to the great tech stack that we have at AirAsia. We use fantastic systems and we were able to train those people within a couple of days and get them live on our systems to be there to instantly help our customers. So I think, that was sort of an instant quick pivot that we had to do. But we also had to look broader at, how we were going to acquire new customers and, how we could diversify our business quickly, because it was obvious that the pandemic was not a short-term thing. It was obviously going to go for many months, as we've now seen. So, we've rolled out lots of new products at AirAsia, unlimited passes, for example, that have been incredibly popular with our customers. We've gone through a bit of a rebrand and a digital transformation with our AirAsia Super app, and I'm super excited to share some information about that with you throughout our talk today. And already that's already got over 15 different digital and lifestyle products, and is beginning to drive substantial revenue in our business. So it was about the instant response for us, but it was also about how to take advantage of the situation and really look at how we could begin to diversify and change our business. And we did that very quickly through the diversification you're now seeing.
Yeah, I think that's a great point, Adam. I think, with whatever is happening, I think it's how fast we react to the situation. I think Asia did a great job in sort of looking at reskilling some of the people. Yeah. Maybe to Joan, maybe from your experience, this time last year, what sort of, process did Love Bonito go through in terms of, again, here, seeing what's happening from your experience from last year? Maybe you could share with us as well.
First, right, within weeks of going into marketplace expansion, of going into, launching their own e-commerce brand, we had the upper hand in that sense, right? But even then, I think, we were fulfilling our orders cross-border, and Ninja Van is actually one of our delivery partners cross-border, right? And the first thing that we actually checked even, right, was to call up, our operations team, ensure that, cross-border fulfillment was still okay, because there were a lot of, obviously, red tape around cross-border inbound, outbound. Exactly. And then, for us, the other thing that we really focus on was safety. And, primarily, I think what we had to do was we had to really put ourselves in the customer's position, right? It was an erratic time. It was an unpredictable kind of a trend, right? None of us knew exactly what was happening, but because I think we had really like the right, kind of team to really go through everything, right? And, maintain that sort of calm, right? So we had a strong, high-performing teamwork that really developed, exhaustive SOPs and the key next steps for us to really execute. So at that time, we were pretty okay at, really managing the entire crisis. The next was really assessing on our business opportunities and risks, because obviously, we had to know what the new normal was. And the new normal was really something that, it was ever evolving and ever developing. So to a certain extent, I think, we were looking at SARS even, right? How, SARS actually developed in the markets that, had SARS, and how the trajectory of recovery happened in those markets, right? And what we would expect from that kind of trend. And so we were trying to deliver against, fundamentally something similar to that extent. And therefore, I think we did sort of, assessed it in the right framework in terms of looking at, trend watching, right? And for us, one of the key things that was an opportunity for us was work from home. Last year, same period, right, before COVID hit, actually, we were, I think, about 55% workwear contribution. So, so obviously, we serve the everyday modern women, and half or more of our revenue contribution comes from workwear. And ever since, COVID started, right, everyone had to suddenly veer towards work from home, remote tools and systems, right? But they still had to work from home. And, everyone had to look, at least presentable on their video calls, on their Zoom. And so we kind of reassessed towards that need, right? Understanding our customers' needs, right? Our women's needs, right? That they needed to look professional, but yet comfortable. So a lot of our focus actually in the months that led up to, even right now, was to develop then, very work from home friendly attire that delivered that sort of professionalism, yet casual comfort.
Yeah, thanks, Joan. I think you brought up some couple of good points, right? In terms of like workforce and all that. I think all of us sort of went through that phase where, I guess not everybody was working from home. So I guess you guys maybe got the right formula in terms of motivating some of these people, right? In that sense, yeah. So I think maybe we can also hear from Zheng, yeah, in terms of your take on, what happened last year. I presume, like I said, from the industry perspective, we saw e-commerce, logistics as one of the so-called organizations that sort of fared a little bit better during the pandemic. From your perspective, how was business? How do you sort of manage during this time last year?
Okay, so for us, right, it's really a mixture of ups and downs. But like initially, right, we were one of the fortunate industries that were considered essential services, so we could operate. But at the same time, it was uncertain how we were to operate and how there were many restrictions that were coming in place. I think given the emergency of the situation, things were communicated, but then there are a lot of details that we had to work out. But I think one of the main thing that really we had to do was to ensure the safety of our couriers and our workers, because we don't want them to be carriers of diseases to spread across the country. So if you remember last year around this time, masks and sanitizer were really short in supply. There was once we even had to import masks from Singapore into Malaysia, and then the supply could only last us like 2 to 3 days. So we really back then, given that we had to operate, and then with so many couriers that we have to find many ways to able to meet the SOP, and as well as to adhere to SOP, getting the right supplies and so on. Then after we start to get the hang of the SOP, being able to operate, what we initially see was that there was actually deep in the market, people were not selling as much. I guess people were not so certain of how to operate, whether they could still sell, because we still have a lot of like marketplace sellers, they fulfill from their homes and so on. But after a while, maybe after like 2 weeks, we see actually demand actually surge dramatically. So we at the start we were thinking of, okay, how do we optimize our costs to make sure that we don't, so if we lower demand, how we optimize the cost to a point where we had to really scale up to 2 times at our lowest point to how much we can deliver to serve the market at the same time. So Then there were also many constraints that we had to deal with. So first is the shorter operating hours. I think from we only can deliver until 6 p.m., 7 p.m. So that really restricts a bit of our delivery windows. So we had to hire a lot more couriers than expected. Then one thing is that like back then like petrol stations were all closed past 8 p.m. So we had long haul trucks that travel to like Terengganu, Kelantan. Halfway they have no fuel. They have to wait for 8 p.m. before they reopen. Then we also face constraints where traditionally we use actually AirAsia for part of our delivery to East Malaysia. So as the freighters actually, as all these passenger flights with a lot of belly space actually came to a halt, we actually had to look for alternatives to service East Malaysia. And I think if we notice what happens on the ground is that a lot of East Malaysia shipments had to rediverted to the hubs in KK, Kuching, and run line haul throughout. So the SLA for these areas were really impacted by the disruption in the supply of air freight capacity to East Malaysia. So I think for us, really, it's a time for us that we had to adapt to the new SOP and to serve the growing market.
Exactly. I think all three panelists have sort of shared, from an industry perspective, the different ways the organization sort of adapted to it. I think I want to take cue to what Joan mentioned just now in terms of the product, in terms of the demand from the customer. Lin Zheng, maybe you can share as well, do you see the change in the product demand from customers in terms of what, they are asking for and things like that from your delivery service logistics perspective?
So I think what we see from we look at our warehouse, right? What are the type of products that go through our warehouse? What we see is that predominantly previously it was more smaller items that are maybe more considered non-essential, less bulky items. But during the period of time where MCO hit, actually a lot of people were stuck at home, they work from home, right? Then they realized, oh, actually I need a new table, I need a new chair for my work from home, I need a monitor and so on. So we see people are actually trending to buy more products that traditionally they will go to a shop and buy to the shop deliver. Now they are taking a chance to buy online, and we see that shift actually is sustained even now. We see it trends up a bit, so people are more acceptable to buy these type of items online compared to before MCO.
I see. Yeah. So I think we're seeing a shift in the customer demands. Maybe we will touch on the customer experience portion, right? I think today we see a lot of tech being used and also something called personalization, right? Do we understand Adam as a customer and things like that? Maybe Adam, from your perspective, what have you seen as a change? Being a chief customer happiness officer, sort of post-pandemic to what we are now, what are sort of the trends you're seeing in terms of how do we deliver a good customer experience from your point of view?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, Alvin, because I think things have actually changed quite significantly. So look, even pre-COVID, we were obviously always a very guest-obsessed business. We were very focused on our customers. We'd been through a digital transformation already. But I think what we've seen, post-COVID is a few things. So, number one, customers are really expecting fast responses from us now. So people aren't willing to, sit there and wait, 45 minutes in a call center queue or things like that anymore. They really want instant responses. So we focused very much on introducing new channels for our customers to talk to us, for example. And what we learned from our customers quickly is they also wanted to talk to us the same way they could talk to their friend or their work colleagues. So, we've introduced channels like WhatsApp for customers to interact with us, for example, through our AI chatbot, Ava. And that's really been able to give customers a much faster, better way of interacting with us. And we've also had to focus heavily, I think, on increasing automation. So I spoke before about the volumes that we saw, coming through our contact environments during the COVID pandemic. And those volumes have fluctuated every day of the week for the last 12 months to peaks of, 500,000 people a day to, lows of 20,000 people a day. And it's very difficult to predict when that will happen because it's based on border closures and MCO extensions and things like that that's driving that to us. So we've really focused on increasing our automation to give customers the ability to self-serve, primarily through Ava, our chatbot, but through other channels as well, and to be able to do things instantly, like get instant credit accounts with us, to instantly apply for refunds, to be able to self-serve to move flights and purchase other products, etc. And we've seen that by increasing that automation and increasing the amount of channels we offer for our customers to talk to us, that we're seeing, much better customer satisfaction statistics, etc., coming through as well. And look, I think at the end of the day as well, customers want this fast interaction, but you also have to focus on quality. It's really easy when you're automating to lose quality. It's really easy when you're using 1,200 volunteer staff, for example, to lose the quality of what you're doing. But the quality is now more important than ever. Customers have super high expectations and they want to talk to you quickly and get something done fast. And to do that, you've really got to drive not just the automation and the technology, but you've got to make sure you've got the people sitting behind the scenes to support that and continue to have really great interactions with our guests every day.
All right. Yeah, thanks for sharing that. I think I just want to take cue from what you mentioned. Actually, from a KPMG perspective, we did a survey last year with a couple of CXOs in the world. And the top three things that the CXOs are focusing on today is really on cybersecurity, customer experience, and efficiency. So I think you brought up a good point there that people are starting to use technology as a way forward to either improve quality or ensuring deliveries on time and so forth. Yeah. So maybe on the topic of technology, Zheng, what has Ninja Van done, in terms of adopting technology in driving the customer experience part of it?
I think in terms of customer experience on technology front, it's a bit similar to what Adam has mentioned. So for us, right, one of the restrictions we had before was also on our call center, right? There's social distancing restriction and so on. So and back then we were only trialing our live chat options. So right now, with the long of pandemic, we actually push our customers to more live chat option because, as Adam also mentioned, right, people don't want to call in and wait for instant response. At the same time, if they send an email, they don't know when you will reply to email. So our live chat option, actually, when we started, it was only about 5 to 10% of our contact point. Up to right now, we have reached around 1/3 of all our contacts go through live chat, and customers are generally also happier compared to other touch points because they get a response sooner. At the same time, on our tracking page also, we do link all our systems to our website so they can track in real time what's happening to the parcel, where it's moved, where the movements and so on. So with this, there's more self-help option. There's more options for them to find out about their shipments rather than contacting us.
So I think there's a clear sign there that technology plays a big role, right, in ensuring the customer happiness as well as interaction, right? Understanding where their parcels are and so forth, and how do we actually get instant replies are ways that we are seeing technology play a big role. Yeah. From a Bonito perspective, Joan, so how has technology sort of better engaged in terms of your customer? As I understand, October last year, you guys opened your fourth shop in the physical shop in Singapore. So how is that playing and panning out between having physical shops as well as how technology has sort of drive your business in that sense?
I think it's very interesting, right? So, for us, I think very simply, customer experience, a great one, right? It's defined as really being able to anticipate and deliver our customer needs and wants. And traditionally, I think pre-COVID, we were looking at, like, from a retail perspective, right? You're able to excite and engage with customers through 5 senses, right? Your sight, your hearing, your touch, your taste, your smell, right? And, post-COVID, you're unable to do all that, right? Everything touchless, everything contactless, everything with social distancing, everything that is to do with sanitization, everything to do with disinfection needs to be, obviously prioritized versus, a traditional pre-COVID customer experience. But of course, we reassess, obviously, what the new normal is at this point. And I guess, also assess what is a temporary type of, I think it's quite, apparent to say that, I don't think retail will go away, but redefining the retail customer experience would be something very important to us, right? How do we then, maintain a very careful, safe, secure SOP that, enables trust with our customers and also enables a great customer experience, right, as we serve them. So, whilst we believe that, obviously e-commerce is the way to go and we're truly omni-channel in that sense, right? We also look at, services like endless aisle, right? Like headless e-commerce platforms, like, looking at click and collect services, which, we're already rolled out in Singapore. Things like that obviously will help with the omni-channel experience. But truly, I think, when we go back to obviously a time where we can be a little bit more normal after vaccinations are done. Everything will sort of pan out to, the customer wanting that sort of face-to-face interaction still, right? Wanting sort of to go out to engage their five senses, right? And that's when, I think the retail experience would be paramount. And of course, we focus on the other e-commerce part as well. I think, we've looked at AI, right? We've looked at AR, right? We'll look at things like click and collect and even endless aisle, right? Where you can deliver, basically, like a whole set of, inventory assortment options, right? To deliver straight to your home. Over the course of last year, we've been assessing that, reviewing that, and of course, planning for that. We've also had to really implement things that, really became an on-ground customer need. So something that we were testing and trialing on was really a store-to-door service. So there were some customers, mainly in Malaysia, who really didn't feel like shopping online, but were so used to regularly shopping in stores that they wanted us to pick stuff from the stores and deliver to them. So it became a pickup service, store-to-door kind of service, right? And that sort of retained a lot of our loyal offline retail customers. But then, obviously we pivoted some of our retail customers to shop online as well. So that really helped, I think, to really look at both perspectives and see what the different channels really play a role in terms of delivering that sort of customer experience.
Okay, thanks, Joan. I just want to touch on, again, here we did a survey last year, right? And one of the questions being asked is what attracts a good service, and the key thing was really around value, right? Ensuring that value is there when we deliver our service. Maybe Adam, I think you touched on ensuring quality and value. How does AirAsia sort of look at that, ensuring that the quality and the value is there in that place? And how do we drive that message across the organization in that bit, Adam?
Well, look, I think AirAsia has always been a value-driven brand. We've, democratized air travel in the region, and we're now looking at doing that in, some other aspects in our different lines of business as well. So I think we're always searching for opportunities where we can add value to customers. We've recently launched our Santan restaurants, for example. We had one this time last year. We've got 9 open in the Klang Valley today. Obviously, Malaysia's all about food, right? We know it's a good pastime in Malaysia. We've introduced delivery through AirAsia Food and AirAsia Fresh recently to, deliver food to people again. That side of our business is going really, really strongly. And again, that's a value-driven side in relation to making sure we minimise fees into restaurants, etc. as well. So I think we're always looking at those value opportunities, but again, to do it well, and again, to make sure it's the high quality that people expect out of the AirAsia brand. So low cost never means low service. We always want to ensure that our guests get the service they expect from us. That's why we've been the world's best low-cost airline for 11 years running. So we need to make sure we maintain those high degrees of quality in all of the products and services that we're offering, not just the core airline brand. So that's a key focus of what we're doing. And the expansions you're seeing into other businesses at the moment, such as AirAsia Food, for example, is driven from that value quality as well.
All right, great. Thanks, Adam. Okay, there's a question from the floor. Okay, this one is to do with live chat. Lin Zheng, I think you brought up that point. Is increasing usage of live chat agents sustainable in the long run? Lin Zheng, any views on that? I think you did mention about using live chat. Maybe you can expand on that discussion, and maybe the question is whether it's sustainable in the long run on that.
Actually, for me, I think for live chat actually is more sustainable, because for live chat agent, actually they can do multiple customer contact at a certain point. Whereas if you're a call agent, if you're on a call with one person, it's one-to-one. Whereas for chat, sometimes when you reply the customers, they take time to reply to you, so they can handle maybe 3 up to 5, depending on the type of inquiries that you can actually manage the load better. And then
All right.
Alvin, can I jump in on that one just quickly as well? I just had something, because obviously we fully digitized our contact centers, but what I would say is it's also the technology you pair with the people. So our AI chatbot, Ava, for example, she's able to handle over 85% of the queries that come to her. So it's not a sustainable solution. I agree if you're recruiting lots and lots of people to answer questions, although, you know, to the previous speaker's point, that's also driven by the fact you can do more live chats than phone calls at once. But I think using technology like chatbots, for example, is really critical, both on a self-service and automation aspect, but also on, you know, minimising the headcount that you need to scale in future as you digitise your contact centres.
Exactly. I think we are seeing a pickup in using chatbots today, right? I think the technology has played a big role, like what Joan mentioned as well in AI and in AR as well in that sense. Coming back to the point on, because we are using a lot of technology in that sense, obviously you guys are at the forefront of getting a lot of data in place. Yeah. So maybe Joan, from your perspective, you know, has data played a big role in sort of, you know, helping you plan in terms of understanding the customer requirements, customer experience, and also how do you plan around what is good for a customer using the data that you guys harness? Joan?
Honestly, I think we obsess over data.
Exactly.
I wake up at 5 a.m., right, every morning. And, you know, after doing what I need to do to get ready to wake myself up and have my coffee, I think the first thing I do is really look at, you know, conversion rates, right, transaction, what's our traffic going into our e-commerce sites and all that. But I think what is the most important thing is how we humanize the data. So,
Exactly.
you know, right now, I mean, obviously every single company is really using all sorts of tools, right? Like we are using our ERP systems. We are on SAP right now. So obviously, you know, everything from inventory to offline and online, tracking, right, is managed through our data warehouse. And we really look at data on an hourly, daily basis. And the one thing to note is that, you know, really for, you know, all businesses, small, medium, and large enterprises, right, is to really ask the who, what, where, why, what, and how, right? So the 5, 6 WHs, right? I think, you know, for us, we look at conversion rates, and sometimes, you know, like in the past, I think, you know, conversion rates for retail are fairly low, right? Now they're double, sometimes, right, high double-digit conversion rates. But then, you know, taking into the factors of the limitations of how many people can walk into a store, we, for instance, in smaller format retail stores, right, we only allow 6 to 10 people at any one time to enter into, you know, any of our stores. And that then obviously, you know, is a change in consumer behavior. I think overall, in the past, you would see a lot more browsing in store. Now you would see a lot more window shopping, right? So, you know, when you go to a mall, right, if the person doesn't have an intention to buy, they would probably stay outside your facade, right? And check out from the facade of your entrance to see what is worth it to go in there to check out. And if it's not, then, you know, they won't. So to a certain extent, I think being able to understand that, right, then, you know, even if you have a high double digit in terms of conversion rate, that really doesn't make much of a difference. But I think more of if you could really tell, right, the customer flow of, you know, each of the stores, right, what they pick up and what they try, right, try rates versus, you know, like the placements of all the products, right, what you put into your window displays versus what you put in at the back of the store. So those things are really important for us to understand and humanize so that we can better serve, you know, at a retail space, right? And of course, you know, when you look at online, for instance, previously, obviously UI, UX is something really important, right? Load time, ease of checkout processes, you know, SLAs in terms of delivery. But now we're having to really, you know, look at, you know, every single click, right? And see, you know, the customer flow, the customer funnels, the customer journey, see why, you know, they are having trouble, you know, like high browser rate on some product pages, but they're not checking out, right? So what does that mean to us? And I think, you know, really it's something that we obsess about and something that's really important for every company to obsess about, to ask the why, the hows.
Okay. Yeah, I think you brought up a good point. We're also hearing, you know, especially in the retail fashion business, people are sort of putting sensors on clothes, right? Here again, sort of see how many people actually try those clothes, and they sort of give you an idea, you know, in terms of the demand for that particular. What were your thoughts around that? That, you know, you put sensors on clothes so that you sort of understand which are the items that probably has a bigger take up in terms of people trying it and so forth.
Yeah, no, that's really something that's very useful for us. I think, Sephora does that with beauty as well. So, in terms of like placement of, products at eye level versus a non-eye level, right? And, also maintaining the brands that are in the frontal area of the store versus the middle area of the store versus the back area of the store. Those things are really very important. And now, I think even more so because of the fact that, the customers are very much more conscientious and careful about where they walk to, right? And of course, like what they decide to try in that sense. Because, for us, I think with apparel, we make sure the apparel are disinfected. Every couple of hours, we disinfect our clothes, right? And to a certain extent, we swap out, the clothes that needs to be tried as well. So to a certain extent, for us, we don't want to, especially with a format like with a small retail format, we don't really want to be crowding the space with too much inventory that doesn't really work. So we really have to know what's our try rate, right? So high try rates, high ROS or high sell-throughs, right? To be able to maintain that kind of turn and turnover. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, thanks, Joan. On the topic of data, I mean, from an AirAsia perspective, maybe Adam, could you chime in here to sort of see, how data has sort of helped you sort of understand the customer a little bit better, in your dynamics of things?
Sure. So first, I agree with Joan. We're absolutely obsessed about data these days. There's not a minute of my day that I'm not looking at a dashboard for something. But I think, data is really critical from a couple of areas. One is to be able to understand, what our customers are telling us, for example. So we use an enormous amount of data, from NPS to customer satisfaction data to data through our CRM tools, etc., to understand where we're going right, where we're going wrong, where we need to focus areas to improve, but also where we can add more value, back to your previous question, to our customers as well. But, data is also really useful from a personalization aspect. I think as, we're moving more into an e-commerce space, obviously in our business as well, data allows you to personalize what you're upselling and cross-selling across an ecosystem and not being the old, would you like fries with that from the old McDonald's days. So I think it's really critical to use data in the right way. It's really critical to capture it in the right way. It's really critical to make sure you use it to personalize and to benefit your customers. And that's certainly what we're seeing is we're introducing, the AirAsia super app, etc., and looking more broadly, not just at the airline business, but across the broader ecosystem. Obviously, the data that we have from the airline business is obviously useful to those other businesses as well. And we have, very large and very strong data expertise or teams and expertise in-house to be able to, support that transition as well.
Yeah, great. I think you and Joan brought up a very good point. I think everybody is sort of looking at data today, right? From our perspective, ensuring data governance is in place. Yeah, ensuring that your definition of revenue and my definition of revenue is exactly the same as well. So the quality of data is definitely key to ensuring that we also get the right data in place. Okay, we have a question from the floor to Joan and Lynn. With the continual growth and expansion of your respective business, what actions are you adopting or investing in to improve control and governance of your process? Are you using digital tools to manage and monitor your service delivery to ensure consistency? Lindsay, maybe you want to try to answer that question if possible.
Okay, I think for us on the control and governance side, we do have our internal quality assurance team. We do regular audits, on ISO standards, so to ensure that all our stations and our drivers all adhere to certain standards. So we do use digital tools. We are able to track all our drivers. What's their success rate, their delivery rates, how many parcels they take on the route. And even on the shipper level, which are the customers that have higher failure rate, low failure rate. So those are actually signs that maybe for certain shippers, there might be the product quality might not be so good. We can feedback to them and so on. So we do use a fair bit of system. So we do a lot checks using data to check on everything from our pickup drivers all the way to our sort centers to the delivery to ensure that we follow process throughout the way and to ensure quality of service.
Okay. Any views on Joan on this part?
I think for us, we definitely have systems in place for our customer care team. I think customer care teams, obviously, I think for us, SLAs are in place, right? And we monitor that on a daily basis. So if there are any red flags from our customer care teams, we're able to sort of mitigate that on a very instantaneous basis. And of course, service recovery, I think Adam would know, it's quite paramount to us, in all our businesses. And, that's something that we take very seriously. So, service recovery is also something that, actively is, very, very much of our priority, right? Then, of course, in terms of internal tools to audit, I think our performance from warehousing, fulfillment, even manufacturing, we have audits as well, right? So for us, I think to a certain extent, that has been in place even prior to COVID and hasn't really changed much. But what happens now is, of course, loading in the new SOPs that we've really developed, right? Then, the sort of the guidelines have evolved, and then obviously how we evaluate the efficiency in the SLAs have also slightly evolved to very much more obsessively detailed.
Yeah. All right. Great. Thanks. Touching on technology, maybe Zheng, from your perspective, how do your organization sort of start to adopt technology and sort of drive that technology conversation across the organization? Yeah, maybe I'm just looking at some of the audience here. Maybe they have yet to sort of look into technology, into their business. Maybe you can share from your experience how the Ninja Van sort of start adopting technology in driving your business in that sense.
Okay. So for us, actually, we are considered more of like one of the technology startup in the logistics space. So in the sense, we are a little bit more tech first. So we started in Singapore. Then I think Bonito was one of our first clients in Singapore. So from there we grew out from a technology base, meaning we have a central system working on the application development of operating system. So those are scalable in the cloud. So from there we quickly could deploy when we expand to countries like Malaysia, Indonesia, Thailand, Philippines, and so on. So this architecture is quite is in the cloud, so it's very scalable. So every time demand spike, we can scale up on the fly. Then from there on, we do have our own in-house product team who we engage with customers where they have new requirements. We work with our product team, then they constantly innovate on okay, maybe we add these new features for our customers. And then on the same time, on an operation basis, let's say we needed a way to, let's say, verify the addresses at scale, so we know how do we deliver to customers, because sometimes the quality of the address is quite bad that when you look at it, you don't know where to go. But there are some ways you can predict and so on that we can reduce the contact to customers and so on. So there's a lot of feedback loops we have from operational side and from commercial side. We prioritize what are the key requirements from to improve efficiency, key requirements for us to increase service offering to our customers. From there on, we feedback to our team, and then this is an ongoing cycle that we have.
I see. I think that's very good.
Must add on that it's a testament, right? So we've been working with Ninja Van, obviously, and I think one of the first few things that happened with the customer orders online were that they all had to divert all their addresses, and it was painless with the Ninja Van partner, because I think all our customers were able to, majority of it had to divert delivery addresses from offices to their homes, right? Because they're working from home.
Exactly.
And that was really, really great. I think customer service and also like the partnership between us, they've managed to really salvage everything during the first time when we hit MCO.
Yeah, great. So I think, again here, I think technology sort of plays a big role. Again here, I think how fast organizations react is really what systems are in place really to sort of adapt in that sense. Maybe I can sort of touch on the workforce perspective, right? So because customer experience, is a key focus, right? So how do you guys sort of drive that conversation down to your workforce to ensure customer centricity, customer focus is the main agenda for the organization? Maybe if I could turn to Adam on that question.
Yeah, sure. So look, I think, first of all, AirAsia has always been a people first business. So, people have always been, our one of our primary focuses. So, through this transition, we've had to transition to be a work from home business. Obviously, in that contact center world, that's very different to having hundreds of people sitting there in an office with you. So, if I look at what we've done in my core team, for example, we have daily team huddles where we get our team in together every day. We give them business updates. We might have a few hundred people on a Zoom call, but we'll still play games with them, for example. So instead of just giving them, business information where, it's fun, they get to come in every day and interact with coworkers and have a bit of fun. And by doing that, it drives engagement. And when you're driving the engagement, that drives the outcome that staff member is going to deliver for you. So if someone comes to work every day and they're bored or disengaged, then that's going to come across to your customer. So we've been really heavily focused on making sure our staff are just as engaged working from home as they would be if they were working in Red Q or any of our other offices there as well. But we've also had to look at that reskilling side, Alvin. I mentioned earlier on, obviously we've had pilots and cabin crew and ground staff and engineers, etc., who, we don't currently need flying or looking after aircraft because we've significantly reduced our operating at the moment. So, we've reskilled those. We've started our Redbeard Academy, for example, which is an academy we started in collaboration with Google to look at reskilling our staff into the digital side of our business, which is obviously a significant growth phase for us with the AirAsia super app starting as well. So by doing that, it's given staff the ability to maybe go from being a pilot to being a software engineer, for example. So that reskilling and that reinvestment into our staff has been a really critical part of maintaining that engagement and also being able to improve the outcome we can deliver for our customers as well.
Exactly. I think you brought up a very good point, right? I think reskilling, because of the changes that we see, I think, it's really about how open our people are, right, in learning new skills and adapting really quickly. Yeah. Maybe from Joan as well, how you guys sort of drive that message across the organization in terms of, again, focusing on customer experience and customer centricity. Yeah?
I think similar to AirAsia, Adam, one of our key first brand principle, right, is really people matter. So I think whether pre-COVID or not, right, we've always been experience first, customer first, and we've always been a business that really enables women to become the best versions of themselves. So I think intrinsically our brand values have been really focused on really obsessing over the customer, right, and delivering the customer's need and want, anticipating her needs as well, right, through different phases of a woman's journey, right? From her first job to, her first child, right? To her marriage or wedding date, right? So to a certain extent, I think, we've always been, I guess, trained, and our people have always been trained. So I think the good thing about it is that, before COVID, teamwork was really something that was, really great within the teams, right? And whether it's cross-functional, cross-border, right? And when it hit, I think, for us, the systems that we implemented, right, through Zoom, through Google Meet, all the tools that enable us to engage with each other, really just helped, magnify, I guess, the teamwork that we really needed to have during this period. So of course, engagement activities, right? Having sessions that we play games, or, really just, hang out and chill out together on a Friday, having a glass of wine, for instance, right? That's something that I think the teams do very well. And of course, like food brings everyone together. So, we have food sessions together, even virtually. But of course, I think that still never ever takes away that human interaction touch. So I'm sure the team is still looking forward to a day where, all of us are able to, go back to the offices again on a, more regular basis. Yeah.
Exactly. I think one of the key challenges that everybody was sort of facing over the last year is the mental stress, right? I think because I think the first time that we had MCO, all of us were boxed up, in our own place, right? I think all of us were going through that mental stress. I think you guys brought up a really good point in terms of, maybe having certain games and, how do we sort of bring the moral and the enthusiasm in terms of how our people sort of work together. Yeah. There's a question on the floor. What would you recommend for the B2B business model as a response to the pandemic to maintain or gain new retailers? Joan, if you want to pick up that question. You want me to repeat that question?
Yeah, so I think for B2B business models, right, in response to maintain or gain new retailers,
Would you have any recommendation that you can or any of the other two panelists can answer that question from the floor? What would you recommend for?
I would say from a retail fashion perspective, I think for us, we've been quite fortunate, I guess, like we have our own channels, right? But the other part of really the team that's really looking into business expansion is that to develop, market expansion opportunities with partners that we can't really directly serve the customer. So I think in Malaysia, we have a very high marketplace industry, right? With likes of Lazada, Shopee, Zalora, right? And of course, like serving the marketplace needs and serving the customers there, right, is something that, is a big opportunity for most businesses in any kind of field, right? Whether it's FMCG, F&B, or, retail. So to a certain extent, I think definitely, leverage as a small business, maybe leverage the marketplaces, right? And then, of course, social media or social selling is something that, is really trending right now, right? I think Shopee Live, Facebook Live, is something that really has been trending very much on the uptrend, and something to look into as you from a small seller become somewhat SME. And of course, there's a lot of support coming from the government as well, right? In terms of grants and funding, right? That really can be applied to starting up that way.
I see. Great. Thanks. Yeah. I guess from another perspective, there's a question from the floor as well. What are the immediate technology skills that graduates or potential workers should learn, regardless of their field of expertise? Adam, you want to have a crack at this question here? I think it's really what sort of skill sets that maybe AirAsia is sort of looking at to bring on board to sort of drive again the balance between what the business needs and what technology requires as well in that sense. So from your perspective, from a customer experience perspective, what are you looking at to sort of bring on board, to sort of support your agenda as well?
Sure. Look, I think these days, skills in technology are really important. I literally have heads of department in my team who work in the back ends of chatbots every day, and they've had to learn how to do that. They've had to learn, elements of coding, etc., to be able to be successful at. So I think those technology skills are really, really important now. Obviously, there's lots and lots of companies, not just AirAsia, but I think all of us here today have gone through digital transformations or come as digital startups, right? And I think as part of that, that's a really important skill to have, because it's not just a skill now that you need in your software engineering team or your IT team. That's a broader skill that you need from a technology perspective across the business. And that's why we really focused on that Red Bead Academy I mentioned to you earlier about how we can reskill lots of people in our business on those tech sides as well. And look, I think the other thing is that there's always the element of cultural intelligence, etc. When I'm looking for people I recruit into our team, it's about culture fit into our business. It's about being able to work across different cultures throughout ASEAN and beyond. It's about the people skills they've got and the overall skill set they bring our business from, not just what they've studied, for example, but, their attitude and culture fit and languages they can bring and all of that sort of stuff as well. So I think it's about what you might formally learn in relation to digital skills, etc., but it's also about continuing to build, your cultural intelligence, etc., as well, as you get up into that sort of work world out of the university side.
So I think you brought up a good point there in terms of cultural, perspective, and also maybe the softer skills as well. I presume this is something that the academy will probably enhance on or really touch upon in terms of reskilling the people in AirAsia.
Yeah, definitely. Look, it's not just about technical skills. The soft skills are just as important. Business is all about relationships, right? The question you asked before about B2B and how to improve that, that's also just as much about the relationships you're developing with your B2B partners as it is anything else, right? So those soft skills are just as important as the actual hard skills or the technical skills that we're training people.
All right. Thanks, Adam. Lin Zheng, would you want to have a go at that question in terms of what sort of technology or skill sets that Ninja Van is sort of looking at in terms of bringing on board?
I think for us, I think one of the key skills to learn is really on the data analytics part. So I think the key part is on knowing what to look for, where to look for, what do you regard and what do you not regard. I think the key part is now data is so ubiquitous. You get data from everything, right? So it's what what do you drill down, what's important and what's not important. I think those things takes time. And also, how do you relate the data to what's I think Joan mentioned what's happening on the ground, meaning like this data, how does it relate to the ground? So if they can understand this better, they can really understand regardless of what industry they are in or which specialization they're at, even HR, finance. If they can find trends, they can find all this. You really help them go a long way for to improve processes, to look at how to look general improvements. I think that is really a good skill to have in general.
Yeah, I think you brought a very good point. Yeah, from a KPMG survey that we did last year, the top two sort of jobs or skills that people want the most is two. One is cybersecurity, and the other one is something called the data scientist. So if anybody has asked you, in terms of what they want to study in university, these are probably the two key things that the industry is sought after at the moment. Yeah. I think we've got about 8 minutes left on the call. Yeah, maybe if I could go to each one of y'all, maybe on the point of what you see customer experience is sort of evolving from, again, where we are, where we are now, right? From where we were last year, and where you see the customer experience sort of moving towards the future. Maybe I start with Adam. How you see you sort of planning out the customer experience journey now. What you have learned again from what you saw last year, to what you are today, and where do you think the bar will be moving forward in that sense. Adam, maybe I can start with you first.
Sure. Look, I think the bar's always going to go higher and higher. I think customers are becoming more and more educated, and so they should be. And I think customers' expectations are increasing more and more. We live in a world which is driven by social media, where people want instant responses, where people can get answers to things by typing a few words into Google, right? And with that world, the sort of demands of customers have really significantly changed. So I think, from my point of view, things like single entry points into how customers speak to you in your business. You can't have 6 different phone numbers to different call centers and all these different ways and channels. You've got to find a way to bring them all together into one, and that's what we've done really well with Ava. It's like a triage nurse. It's our single entry for customers across our ecosystem to talk to us, for example. But I think the increase in automation and self-service is really important as well. The question we got asked right at the beginning about, is it sustainable to recruit lots and lots of people? Well, the answer to that is no, particularly as businesses come out of COVID and, costs are critical to businesses as they do so. So there's a real importance to increase automation and self-service. And what we're seeing in the very, technical driven market that we're in now is customers are more and more comfortable to be able to, speak to bots or to self-service through, different platforms, etc. too. But I really think the way that customers talk to business will be, really driven on those messaging platforms, etc. moving forward. And I also think we'll see an increased use of AI voice. So the Siris and Alexias of the world, I think we'll certainly see that go into sort of the chatbot worlds, etc. too. And, in 5 or 10 years time, instead of having a conversation maybe with a call center agent, it'll be with, those sort of AI voices to get that instant sort of response we need to.
Exactly. Lindsay, maybe from your perspective as well, before we sort of close off, again, where you see the customer experience going from your perspective from Ninja Van?
Okay, so for Ninja Van, I think our perspective, so for us, we are actually not the retailer itself. We are support for the e-commerce and also retailers that are going to sell online. So for us, we actually have 2 sets of customers if you look at it. So first is the end customers. So the expectation for them really is about not just about speed. I think speed is one thing that is becoming like a hygiene. Next one is optionality. It's like whether they want to collect it at their house, their office, or we have like a Ninja box in the LRT station where maybe on the way back they can collect on the way. So in terms of optionality, this is what we need to offer our customers, different ways of collecting their parcels. Then on the other end, on the shipper perspective, where our true customers are people who pay us money. So in the sense, we see the trend going to the more long tail merchants. So traditionally, we work more with the B2C, the merchants, right? We work directly. We have less contact with the end consumer. But we see with the increase in the trend of the marketplace, there are a lot more people selling online. People maybe buy a few items, they put on the Shopee or Lazada or even on Facebook, so on. So there's a need more for like a retail footprint. Like for us, we have this Ninja Point footprint of about 4,000 outlets over Malaysia where people can drop-off parcels that they sell, they can also collect. So in that sense, we see there's also more trends serving this type of customers, the long-tail merchants, as well as customer on the optionality part.
All right, thanks. Joan, any points from you before we sort of
Yeah, I
close it?
think for us, we're serving the end customer, right? Mainly, and to us, yeah, speed, in terms of SLAs, are very important, sort of like priorities to us, in terms of delivering customer satisfaction. So when it comes to like e-commerce, especially, I think that's something that will continue on, and I think be even more demanding. Of course, for me, I believe that omni-channel sort of shopping behaviors would be a lot more apparent in the next coming months and coming future, right? So I think we will have more omni-channel customers, and therefore we'll need more tools that obviously look into trend watching style machines, right, that can predict new upcoming trends, right? And of course look at how we can also maximize inventory. Right now, obviously, we have an inventory. I think a lot of brands, a lot of companies, especially retail fashion, would have inventory problems, right? The only saving grace for us is we're non-consumables. So to a certain extent, we have a longer shelf life compared to others. But really, I think to maximize inventory, that's something that we need to look at as well from an internal process. And of course, like for us, automation, in terms of, auto chatbots, right? Those really would be paramount to us to deliver the sort of customer service that we need with the sort of speed that we need to be at.
Great, thanks. I think, so I think once again, a big thank you to Adam, Joan, and Lin Zheng as well for having this session with us. Yeah, I think we started off with sort of understanding from an industry perspective. It's good to see that your organizations reacted well in terms of adapting, how you guys also use technology. I think we had a good conversation around how you guys use data as well. And really, it's good to hear as well, the different ways you guys are sort of looking and even motivating your people, right? Even through this mental stress that all of us are going through, right? Ensuring that the customer is still the focus and ensuring that we deliver and, we make sure that we understand the customers really well. Yeah. I think with that, I will end the session with the star. Again, a big thank you to our panelists, Adam, Joan, and Lin Zheng. I'd like to say a big thank you to Star as well for having us on board for this session. Once again, I will close off and I wish everyone a safe and happy day. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.